Good morning, everyone. Our office has this morning published a report on the human rights situation in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea since 2014. Today's report finds that the overall human rights situation in DPRK has not improved over the past decade and in many instances has degraded, bringing even more suffering to the population. It points to the introduction of more laws, policies and practices that are subjecting citizens to increased surveillance and control in all parts of life. The report says political prison camps continue to operate. The fate of the hundreds of thousands of disappeared people, including abducted foreign nationals of the Republic of Korea, Japan and elsewhere, remains unknown. Citizens continue to be subjected to unremitting propaganda by the state for their entire lives. The right to food continues to be violated, with some state policies exacerbating hunger. Today, the death penalty is more widely allowed by law and implemented in practice. Enjoyment of freedom of expression and access to information have significantly regressed with the implementation of severe new punishments. These include the death penalty for a range of acts, including the sharing of foreign media, such as TV dramas. The surveillance of the population has become even more pervasive, aided by advances in technology. The report, which is based on hundreds of interviews by the office, along with supporting materials, points to the increased use of forced labour in many forms, particularly so-called shock brigades. These are usually deployed to take on physically demanding and hazardous sectors, such as mining and construction. People in these brigades often come from poorer families, and in recent years, the government has used thousands of orphans and street children in coal mines and at other hazardous sites, and for extensive hours. If DPRK continues on this current trajectory, the population will be subjected to more of the suffering, brutal repression and fear that they have endured for so long. Today, the UN Human Rights Office continues to document human rights violations, some of which may amount to international crimes, while the state has no independent institutions or processes to ensure accountability and provide victims with effective remedies. Our office did receive reports of some limited improvements. Escapees reported nominal improvements in the treatment of people in detention facilities, including a slight decrease in violence by guards, with law enforcement officials reportedly showing more awareness of the standards for the treatment of persons deprived of liberty and their conditions of detention. Several laws have been enacted or amended, reportedly strengthening fair trial guarantees and protection against ill treatment of persons deprived of liberty. The country is engaging to a degree with the international human rights system, ratifying 2 more human rights treaties and complying with some treaty bodies' reporting obligations. However, the disconnect between the state's international obligations and ultimately the reality of the lives of its citizens remains stark, the report concludes. The report lays out some immediate steps to foster credibility of the government's commitment to human rights and provide momentum for a new path. These include ending the system of political prison camps and guilt by association, ending the use of the death penalty, restarting family connections, including through meetings, ending torture and ill treatment in places of detention, providing information on those abducted or forcibly disappeared by the state, distributing information about human rights to the population, inviting the High Commissioner and other human rights mechanisms to visit the country, and accepting the UN Human Rights technical assistance on rights in detention. So that is the findings of the report. I am joined by my colleague James Heenan, who is head of our office working on DPRK from Seoul, and he is happy to take any of your questions. Thank you.
I don't know, James, if you wanted to come in. I see we've got a question from Emma Farge from Reuters online already. Perhaps we'll give the floor to her, and then if you've got some other remarks that you want to make, you can do that. Go ahead, Emma.
Good morning. A few questions, if I may. I'm wondering about the use of the death penalty. Can you say how extensively it's been used, and is that increasing? And has anyone actually been executed for sharing TV dramas, or is that just in the law? And if you can say which TV dramas are North Koreans wanting to watch, I'd be interested. And finally, a more general one. I'm wondering, are funding difficulties affecting your ability to highlight these abuses? I couldn't see any escapees this time in Geneva. Maybe that's funding related, or maybe I just missed them, but thank you.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for welcoming me this morning. Thanks for the question. So on the death penalty, what we have outlined in the report is that, yes, indeed, in terms of the use of the death penalty, people being executed, it has increased, particularly since the COVID period started back in 2020. We see people being executed for crimes, what we might call ordinary crimes, like drug possession, murder, possession of pornography, and so forth. We see those as increasing. We also see executions for anti-state crimes, which are political crimes, increasing. We base our information on information from hundreds of individuals that we interview now. Obviously, if someone's been executed, they can't tell us that they've been executed, but we have a number of people who've told us about family members or of having witnessed executions. Public executions continue to take place, which the government acknowledges. They acknowledge that during their UPR process. And in terms of executions under the laws on freedom of access to information, that is an even more worrying trend. There are new laws which prescribe the accessing foreign information, for example, the so-called K-dramas, as you mentioned. And we do have credible evidence that individuals have been executed, not just for watching K-dramas. The crime is for distributing at a certain level, foreign information, foreign media. So yes, it has happened for distribution. I couldn't tell you which K-dramas. Our interviewees do tell us what are the most popular dramas, but I couldn't tell you for which ones people are being executed. It is not only K-drama, by the way. It is a ban on foreign information, which is seen as being anti-socialist. On funding, well, the funding is affecting the whole office. It hasn't affected our ability to gather information to date. We have interviewed for this report alone. We're relying on well over 300 interviews, and we continue to have the funding to do that, but it's important that be continued because, as you can imagine, that sort of work is very, very labor intensive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm looking to see if there are any other questions. Looking online and here in the room, I don't see any at the moment. Oh, Emma, you've got a follow-up. Go ahead.
If I may, I'd be really interested in hearing more about the children in forced labor as well. It sounds very Victorian, or maybe even worse. Can you say what scale that's happening at, please?
So the phenomenon of children in forced labor has a few typologies, a few different types. One is in school. School children are used to do things like particularly harvest season, to collect the harvest from the fields, but also to do manual work around the school or along roads and so forth. The government says that this is just part of a sort of a curriculum to help them learn life skills. But the information we've had for many years now is that it meets the qualification of forced labor because the children have no choice, and often the work is quite backbreaking and takes a lot of their days. The other prevalent form is in shock brigades, which are working groups that are put together, revolutionary working groups that are put together for a specific task, like building a bit of a road or constructing a building or so forth. It could be anything. But those tasks also involve children. They're often children from the lower level of society because they're the ones who can't bribe their way out of it. And those shop brigades are engaged in often very hazardous and dangerous work, even mining, for example, for children. So it is a very, very serious problem. And on top of that, the constant propaganda directed at children suggests to them that should they work very hard, should they even, in some cases, documented if they've died, that is a good thing. That is showing the ultimate sacrifice for the party and the leader. So children at work is one of the key issues we highlight in the report.
Thank you. We have a question from Satoko Adachi from Yomiuri Shimbun. Go ahead, Satoko, please.
Yes, thank you very much for doing this. I just want to ask about, okay, North Korea has acknowledged that they sent about 15,000 soldiers, about maybe official figure could be different, but then I see it about in total of 15,000 soldiers to Russia to be deployed to the battleground in Ukraine. And if you have any information, could you tell us who they are? Did they include the prisoners or the people who are in detention? Thank you.
Thank you very much. This development is mentioned in the report. Both the Russian Federation and DPRK have acknowledged the deployment. And in addition, there's reports of the movement of ammunition since 2023. We can't tell you who are in those groups. I would not say they are detainees. That's not the way in which the military works in DPRK. If anything, because they have such a long conscription period, they would be conscripts, but they would also be those from it's reported that they are from more specialized units who have been sent there. And we see this as being the sort of a fairly normal deployment of troops to Russia, not including prisoners, no. We don't have a lot of information about what's happening within those deployments, but we have in the past raised concerns just last year about the way in which soldiers are treated within the military, or individuals are treated within the military, particularly from an aspect of forced labor, where they're asked to do things which aren't related to military activities, building and so forth. We also have concerns about their access to food and nutrition, which is a problem for everyone in DPRK. We have a concern about sexual and gender-based violence, particularly concerning women, and we have a concern about the access to medical care. That's, when I say that, I'm talking about service personnel in the DPRK military, wherever they may be. Over.
Thank you. I think Satoko may have a follow-up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, just follow up. Do you have the number of the casualties who are sent to Russia and then they are deployed to the battlefield in Ukraine?
The number of casualties amongst DPRK soldiers in this conflict, no, we don't have. We in the Human Rights Office don't have. We don't have reliable figures on that, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions online, any more questions online or in the room. Thank you for joining us from Seoul. James, thank you. Liz, if I'm sure that they'll happy to take any more questions from you online, and that the report, I believe, has been circulated already. So you can take your time to read it and come up and follow up with further questions online. Thanks so much.